For me though, it's kind of the Hopkins kind of thing where I feel like we can say this every single year about him, and somehow he just still whips out
Yeah,
numbers
exactly.
that are attractive for a fantasy player.
He in total last year he was 30th, but in the second half he was 8th. So Marcus Mariota was dogging him basically, and then Tanners came in and took a liking to him. Once again, he's ADP 16, so not ridiculous value in the pick, but I think he can definitely be a top 15 wide receiver. It was his rookie year last year, so it's his second season, so natural progression there.
Preston Williams did his knee, then Parker became a god. Preston Williams is back fit and firing, so I'm not even sure if Parker's going to be their alpha receiver. And he's playing.
It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, the ball is close! He's given him! He's given him! Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday!
Oh, welcome back to the On the Ball Potty. This is episode 59 of the show, and we are back. The NFL Fantasy crew, we're back. I'm looking like a sushi chef today, so just bear with me there. Going for the Stuart Broad like bandana, but I'm joined with the NFL experts. When it comes to fantasy, it's hard to find two blokes who know more about the game. We're finishing off our set of 6 fantasy series where we go through. We've gone through the QBs, the QB roughies, the running backs, the running back roughies, and the wide receivers. So today we're doing the wide receiver roughies. So we're once again talking about who has the highest floor, who has the highest ceiling, who has who you should avoid. So without further ado, we want to talk about this first. Leonard Fournette has been announced that he has agreed in principle to joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So basically, both sides of the party have agreed to it. They've just got to agree to the smaller, finer details of the contract. So I'm sure that will be announced in the next couple hours or days. But it's pretty much locked in right now. But the question is, in terms of NFL fantasy, is that good or bad for Fournette? Curtis?
Well, I know Pilch doesn't think it was that good, but I think it's really good, to be honest, because I feel like he might not necessarily get as many like catches, just considering they got 2 pretty elite receivers and 2 really good tight ends. But I feel like he's gonna get plenty of opportunity to run the ball. I feel like he suits the team really well. They kind of did need kind of a bit of grunt in the offense, that they're real flashy offense. So now they've got a big grunt in Fournette, who I personally think's a real good talent and someone who can really show off his talent at the Bucks. But also I feel like his productivity and efficiency in terms of breaking tackles, in terms of having open runs will also increase. And I feel like he's going to rack up plenty of yards there as a consequence, and should be another 1,000+ yard season for Fournette. And I still feel like he will get catches though, just because Brady's obviously now 40 something, or in his 40s, so he's not necessarily going to be able to slingshot at 65 yards. So he's going to need someone to throw it to short, and Fournette could obviously catch and break off the lines there. So I feel like perfect for the Bucks and perfect for Fournette as well.
Pilch, I know you have a contrasting opinion, so why do you think it's actually a bad move for the great man?
Well, I agree that the efficiency will probably go up a little bit, and he'll definitely get more touchdowns. Only 3 touchdowns last year on the Jags, but the volume just isn't going to be there. He's competing with 3 other decent running backs, especially Ronald Jones, and they've just drafted the rookie Keyshawn Vaughn and brought in LaShawn McCoy. And in the passing game, the Buccaneers throw to the running back spot way less than the Jags did. And we don't even know if he's going to have a 3-down role there. So I'm avoiding him based on all that. Just don't think he'll get anywhere near as much volume.
Yeah, I think we had him. I think he just missed our top 15. I think he was 16th in our running back rankings, but that was a couple of weeks now, so it's probably changed. But for me, I think he's dropped out of So now we've got a 10-man league, 2 running backs. So for me, I think he's dropped out of starter contention. So with him in 16, I would have said he was like just an RB2, but now I'd say he's a bench option at best. I just think, as Pilch said, the volume is going to decrease a lot. I was looking at some of the Tampa Bay lads' stats last year, and McCoy and I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I think it's like Ogun Bawale or something. I could have absolutely butchered that, but they both got like 30 to 40 receptions in the receiving game. And then Ronald Jones and McCoy both ran quite a lot. So, and then obviously they drafted Keyshawn Vaughn. So, yeah, I think it's going to be part of a committee. And with committees, I'm always a bit scared because I got a bit scarred from Damian Williams last year at the Chiefs. So I probably would steer clear. And also, the main reason I would steer clear is I think his ADP will be higher than he should be. So I don't think he's necessarily the worst option. Like, if we just came into it fresh, clean slate, I'd say, yeah, he's a good bench option. He has high upside with TD potential and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to
But I
say,
think because he's a known name, he did well last year. I think he will be going higher than he probably should be now. So that's probably why I won't be touching him. But yeah.
I think he could be potentially, in my opinion, because obviously I think it's going to be completely different to what you guys say, but in my opinion, I feel like he could be potentially the best running back 2 on the board. I feel like, obviously, you said there's going to be plenty of touchdowns now, well, relative to last year for sure, but even then, like, he's averaging 4.3 yards last year, and we're talking he has Minshew as his quarterback. So where's the defensive line even like looking at Minshew? They're always going for 4 now, and he's averaging 4.3 yards. So let's say his productivity halves. Oh, sorry, his output halves, but his productivity should like dramatically increase. Like,
Yeah.
we're talking, apparently, I think in his second year at LSU, he was averaging 8 point something yards. Like, he's clearly got some legs on him, and he's fast as well.
That ain't
apparently.
nothing.
Yeah.
We'll see,
Nah.
mate.
I don't really cop the college stats coming into the conversation, but fair enough. And
Sorry.
he's moving to a lot better O-line. Last year, I think Jacksonville were ranked 26 and Tampa were ranked like 7th. So that's very good for him. But I guess we'll see how that plays out. So yeah, we'll get into our wide receivers now. We'll stop. I'm sure you're waiting on the edge of your seat for this one. So we'll start with the floor. I was saying to the people with the highest floor outside our top 15, I was saying to the fellas, this is probably the hardest one for me because there was quite a few guys who they have a high floor, but they have a really low ceiling. So, I think they're almost an avoid, but we've chucked them in the floor. So first off, Pilch, who do you want to lead us off with, mate?
Floor wide receivers.
Yeah.
I'll kick it off with Tyler Lockett from Seattle Seahawks. I just think we know what we're going to get from him. He's on arguably a top 3 offense in the
Got him.
In the NFL, top 3 offense in the NFL, and he's been consistent. Last year he was over 1,000 yards. He'll get the volume and the red zone work required to easily be a top 20, top 25 wide receiver. So I think he's very safe, but you're not going to see him like push into the top 10 or anything like that.
Yeah. I know we don't want to go from like floor to avoid to see that we want to keep it kind of structured, but since you brought him up, I've actually got this guy in my avoid section. I was saying I found it tough to distinguish between avoid and floor, but it's purely because I think he'll be getting drafted too high for what he should be. Because he at the moment his ADP is 21. Last season he was 22nd, and he in terms of average, and he ended up the second half of the season he was 29th. And I think all of us will have DK Metcalf in our ceiling section. He is expected to break out pretty well. So for me, the fact that he's getting taken at 21 is a bit of a turn off. So that's why I had him in my avoid. But I can see the argument for him also being in the floor because he's on a good team with a great QB. He's guaranteed receptions and targets, and as you said, they're probably going to score quite a lot again this year. So he will probably be a solid TD target again.
I've got him as my wide receiver 18 at the moment, so I'm fairly high on him.
Above the average punter. Interesting. Kurt, have you got anything to say on Lockett, or do you want to go to a new man in your floor section?
I was actually contemplating mentioning Lockett in my floor as well, so well done, Pilch.
Get around it. All right, Kurt. Who do you want to mention next for the floor?
I'm gonna go Shark as my first floor.
Yeah, he's probably my number one man actually for this one.
Obviously, he's an elite talent. He's got plenty of potential there, but I'm sorry, what is their QB? Like, he can't throw past 20 yards. Like, I don't understand how he's in the NFL. Like, he's just,
Mate, that's stiff.
I seriously don't know what the Jaguars are doing. Like, they've
They're
got
tanking.
rid of
They're going
Ramsey. They've
Trevor.
got rid of Leonard Fournette. It's just the whole thing's a debacle, and they've got an elite wide receiver talent in Shark, and they're seriously wasting him with Minshew as their QB. So yeah, he's a massive flaw for me, just because Minshew just might not be able to get out of the hands in time, and Shark just may not have any production as a result. So yeah, huge flaw for me.
Yeah, I think Shark is a great example for the floor section. He's pretty much guaranteed 7+ reception targets a game. He's going to be their number one man. He probably will cop a little bit more coverage this year. I think cornerbacks might pay a bit more attention, but I think he showed last year is pretty handy at the game. I mean, his ADP is 23 as well, so it's below where he finished last year in terms of average, which is always a good sign. And he's only young. I think last year might have been his second or third season, so natural progression, obviously. And yes, next up, you guys might have this bloke in your avoid because I know one of you, maybe both of you, aren't too hot on him. I think it's Pilch. I don't know. Yeah, Pilch had him. You had him at number 25 in your list. It's Keenan Allen. For me, similar to Shark. Is it Shark or Shark? It's got to be Shark, but it's just better to say DJ Shark, I reckon. But yeah, anyway, Keenan Allen. I think this is just a standard. It's like Allen Robinson. It's like Shark. Those not so great offenses with the average QB. I feel like the number one wide receiver often benefits from that. And last year he dominated. Well, he's actually dominated the last 3 years. He's been 3rd in 2017, 11th in 2018, 8th in 2019. And this year they're coming in with Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert. So I think he's going to be their number one target again, and he's going to be the bailout option a lot. I think, yeah, Mike Williams is their wide receiver too. Don't think they'll go to him too often. He's more a downfield target. I think he had the highest average yards per reception last year. So Keenan Allen's going to be that short target. They're going to want to hit up, 10 yards or so, but they're just going to throw it to him heaps. And his ADP is 18, which I think, like, I'm not saying that's a steal. Like, I don't think he'll be top 10 or anything, but I don't think the punters are too hot on him. So I think he's a pretty solid. Maybe if you get like Tyreek Hill as your RB1, I think Keenan Allen would be a nice complementary RB2 to go next to him because he'll probably just be solid every week. But yeah, thoughts on Keenan Allen? I know, Pilch, you didn't rate him too highly.
I'm pretty low on him, but I'm not avoiding, and he's definitely fits into the floor category.
Yeah,
just bulk targets.
For me though, it's kind of the Hopkins kind of thing where I feel like we can say this every single year about him, and somehow he just still whips out numbers that are attractive for a fantasy player.
Yeah. So I can't see why he's not going to be a top 20 wide receiver yet again. After all, Phil Rivers was probably just as good as Tyrod Taylor last year. All right, Pilch. By the way, did you agree with DJ Chark or?
Yep. Yeah, I like Chark.
Yeah. Pilch. Who else are you bringing up to this section?
Another bloke that fits into the poor offense, poor QB situation. Terry McLaurin, he was clearly the most talented rookie wide receiver in the NFL last season. Like, it wasn't even close. He led the entire NFL in contested catch rate, Kentucky marks, entire NFL. He runs a 4.35, and he's ripped and massive, outbodies all the cornerbacks, but he's just a lock for an insane amount of targets because obviously the Redskins, all they'll have to do is throw. They're going to be behind in every single match, and he's got absolutely no competition in that offense. So, I mean, even if Haskins sucks, if he's getting 150 targets and he's a beast of a talent, he's a lock for a good average. And I've got him, he's my current wide receiver 17, so I think I'm pretty high on him.
Yeah, his ADP is 25. ADP is where he's being drafted on average for those at home. Not sure what ADP means, but yeah, I won't lie. I had him in the ceiling section, but looking back on it, he's probably more a floor. But if you're a bit of floor,
I reckon he's got both, if I'm honest.
That's the ultimate situation, isn't it? Because the thing is, I was thinking, I'm probably more thinking in the future, like not necessarily this year. That's probably what corrupted my decision making. But like if Dwayne Haskins comes out, looks like a new man. They've got a new coach. Terry McLaurin's probably going to be the first guy to benefit from that because he's clearly the best player on that offense. So I thought there was a chance there that he could. Where did he come last year? He finished 29th. I thought there was a chance he could jump right up into that top 15. But let's be real, Haskins, although he's a talent, he's probably not going to come out and beast like straight away anyway. So that's probably more a long-term thought process from me. But yeah, I think floor is probably more appropriate than ceiling. Curtis, who else are you rolling with?
This is another one where it could be a big ceiling, but also for me, there's a great chance of it being a 4. And that's Smith Schuster, in my opinion.
Floor
last
for
year,
Smith-Schuster. Interesting.
well, I kind of yesterday I was watching a bit of NFL highlights, and I was just watching a bit of Smith Schuster, and even though obviously Rudolph is an absolute dud of a QB, he just wasn't open the whole time. When he's on the number 1 cornerback, and he's got safeties around him as well, he just wasn't open. And I'm worried, even though this year he's got Roethlisberger as his QB, which is a dramatic improvement relative to Rudolph, who again probably shouldn't be in the NFL. Let's be honest. I don't know if he's going to be open. Like, obviously, probably one of the best wide receiver 2s out there. But as a wide receiver 1, I'm not fully convinced by him, and so I'm not necessarily sure whether I would want him as my wide receiver 1 or even 2, just because I'm not sure if the production's going to be there. So therefore, I think he's got a big flaw in him.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not sure about that one. Because he struggled last year, so I don't know how he has a high floor. Like, I guess he's going to be their main man, and Big Ben's coming back. But for me, he's kind of a sort of bloke who is just unpredictable. Like, I agree with you that I wouldn't want to draft him at all, to be honest. I think he's being taken way too high.
But I can
ADP
see that's
is
why I'm
15.
saying he's a big flaw, because I can see him being drafted reasonably early again, like where he's like considered a wide receiver 1 and drafted as a wide receiver 1, and he just produces something that should be on your bench.
Yeah, his ADP is 15. My mum's just done her ankle outside. His ADP is 15, and yeah, I don't know. I think he's been taken way too highly. Pilch, do you think Juju should be in the conversation to be a starting wide receiver in a 10-man league, or?
Yeah, borderline wide receiver 2, not a wide receiver 1. I think I had him quite high last time we were on the airwaves, but I've moved him down because there's been he hasn't been copping the best reports out of training camp. Apparently he's struggling a bit out there, so I'm getting a bit worried about him.
Yeah, and they've got a few other guys expected to jump up a little bit this year. So yeah, I don't know, because the thing is, there's plenty of fish in the sea. It's not like you've got 4 blokes to choose from. So I don't know why anyone would risk Juju Smith-Schuster as a wide receiver 2, or even if, like, I'm honestly just not picking him in any circumstance. But for me, he does have a bit of a ceiling if he just comes out like 2018. So I guess there's argument for upside with Juju. So maybe he's a good bench or flex option. But yeah, definitely wouldn't pick him up as a starter. Maybe a bit more of a rogue one for a big floor. I've got like 10 down for each thing, but I'm obviously not going to read them out. I'll go Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, good one.
He's not the most glamorous selection, but his ADP is 46, which I think is a bit of a robbery. Last year, he ended up 35th, and in the second half of last year, he was 24th. So the first half, they had all that issue with Darnold out for a month with mono. Luke Falk played. Trevor Simeon did his leg. But when Darnold came back for the second half, he was 24th in the comp. He was just getting bulk targets every game. So for me, he is the perfect situation where he doesn't have a high floor at all. He's not going to come out and be a top 15 wide receiver, but I think he's pretty locked in to be like a top 30, top 35. So in a huge league, if you maybe have 3 wide receivers or 2 wide receivers in a flex and you just want someone who is going to pump out decent scores each week, I think Crowder's your man, because I think 46 as an ADP is a bit stiff. And I think if he was on another team, not a mythical team like the Jets, I think he'd be getting taken a lot higher. So yeah, he's me. He's one of the rogue ones I've got. Have you boys got any rogue shouts?
I must say I do like that one. I've got another one who's just being completely disrespected by what his ADP is, and that's Julian Edelman.
I had him as well.
Every year he pumps out 1,000 yards, and I think he was 4th, only behind Julio, Michael Thomas, and A-Rob in targets last season. Brady leaving is a big blow for him, but Newton, if Newton's going to be throwing anywhere, it's most likely going to be short ones into the slot, which is right where Edelman is. So I still think he'll be a great pickup.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the public's thinking on this one. He was 9th last year, and now his ADP is 33. So I'm not really sure where a 24 position drop is coming from. Like, that is 24 positions. That's probably an average of 3 decreasing. That's would be rare footy. He came 12th in 2018 as well. He's been good the last 5 years pretty much, and I think and also they don't really have anyone else. I know Pilch, we talked earlier in the season, off season, about N'Keal Harry potentially being a breakout opportunity. But Mohamed Sanu, I think Curtis, you might mention him later. But I think there's rumors he's going to get traded away. They just don't have many options at all. So I think Philip Dorsett or something went to Seattle. So I don't know what the public's thinking with Edelman. I have to admit, he's not the most glamorous pick. They've got a unusual quarterback situation at the moment. They look like they're going to be running it a lot more this year. Edelman, I think 33 as an ADP, that's disgusting, because I think he'll be pumping out, 14 to 18 every single week, if not higher than that. So I like him. Curtis, have you got any rogue ones?
Nah, I'm pretty much done with the floors, to be honest. I didn't have too many.
All right, I won't go through them fully, but the other guys I want to mention, I think Jarvis Landry. I don't think he's the greatest selection this year with Austin Hooper coming in and Beckham expected to bounce back, but I think he'll be pretty decent as always, because he's kind of Baker's go-to. I think Tyler Boyd. I know AJ Green will be playing this year. John Ross might come back from injury, but I think, as I was talking about with Keenan Allen, when you've got a rookie quarterback or a quarterback that's not that good, they often just look at the number one target and just smack it to him all the time. And I think Tyler Boyd could be that man for Joe Burrow. Alshon Jeffrey, once again, I don't think he's a great pickup, but his ADP is 64, and that man is an absolute consistent machine. He's averaged 7 to 8 targets for the last 7 seasons, 7 to 8 a game. So for that to be going at ADP of 64, if he can stay on the park, I know they've brought in Jalen Reagor, but I think he'll be seeing a lot of footy and could be a steal late in the draft or off the waivers. And then two more, don't want to go into it too much, but Christian Kirk. I know Hopkins has come in, but they're going to be scoring a lot of points, and he was kind of Kyler's go-to man, especially in the second half of last year, and he gets a lot of targets. And then Hunter Renfrow, bit of a rogue one, given the Las Vegas wide receiver situation is very confusing. They've had Henry Ruggs drafted in. They picked up Jason Witten in the offseason. They brought in Nelson Aguilar, but I think Hunter Renfrow, I think he's going to stand out this year as their wide receiver one. In the last 6 games last year, he had 5+ targets in each one. And in the last 2, he had 9 in each. And he's going at the average draft position of 65. So I think he could be a steal late in the draft or once again off the waivers. So I think he's someone to watch out. And it was his rookie year last year. So natural progression should see him improve. But yeah, all right. The spicy category now, fellas. Ceiling. Curtis, who's your number one man for this category?
My number one man, and probably all of your number one man as well, is DK Metcalf. Huge ceiling for me. Has all the physical attributes to be an elite receiver. Showed it last year. He's tall, he's quick, he's strong. He's got good hands in him. He was racking up points last year relative to being a rookie. And I can only see him collecting more this year. And obviously the Seahawks are a powerhouse of the NFL, and DK this year I think is going to be a crucial part of that. And so huge ceiling on him, because he could end up being he could potentially be their wide receiver one, and be collecting plenty of points and plenty of receptions this year as a result.
Yeah, Pilch, do you like DK?
Yeah, he's definitely got a high ceiling. I've got him slightly lower than Lockett, but he's definitely the ceiling pick out of the two.
Yeah, he's 100% got a high ceiling. The only thing that concerns me a little bit with him is he's very hyped, so his ADP is actually not that, there's not much value in it. He's going at 22 at the moment, and last year he finished the whole season in 41st. So 22, I'll be impressed if he is in the top 22 this season, to be honest. But yeah, high scoring team. He's just a beast, really. Don't really need to say much more. Curtis said it all. But yeah, he's an obvious one. Another guy who I think is an obvious one, AJ Brown.
Yeah, huge on him.
He in total last year he was 30th, but in the second half he was 8th. So Marcus Mariota was dogging him basically, and then Tanners came in and took a liking to him. Once again, his ADP 16, so not ridiculous value in the pick, but I think he can definitely be a top 15 wide receiver. It was his rookie year last year, so it's his second season, so natural progression there. The only maybe question mark with AJ Brown is that, well, the whole Tennessee team really is that you could question whether it was just a fluky 6 weeks. But I think Tannehill, like I keep saying, he's a limited quarterback. So I think AJ Brown will continuously be his main target. And then they'll obviously run it up with Derrick Henry. He's a big dude, AJ Brown, so he's a scoring threat. He's downfield threat as well. He scored a couple big touchdowns. I think I remember one that was like 70 yards or something. So I really like AJ Brown. Pilch?
Yeah, I love AJ Brown as well. And he's pretty much in a Devontae Adams type scenario now. Corey Davis has just had a season-ending injury, so he is the only weapon they've got in the passing game. And his yards after the carry numbers were massive, as you touched on.
You had him in 15th, mate. That's
he's actually my 14 now.
Oh,
so yeah, I love him. Another one for me is another rookie from last season, Hollywood Brown. Firstly, he's the only weapon on the Ravens team in the passing game, and they're literally
Mark Andrews. Show some respect.
Sorry, only wide receiver, and they're arguably the best offense in the entire NFL. Last season, as a rookie, he only played 50% snaps because he was a rookie. this season, that's going to be 70s, 80s, and the breakout is just set to occur, and he's in an unreal scenario. So he could honestly go huge, and huge touchdown potential too.
Yeah. Once again, I keep saying this, but my concern with him is his ADP is 28. So I would be personally shocked if he finished above 28.
It's getting higher and higher.
Yeah. Last year he finished 49th, and the second half of the year he was 60th. So I'll be honest, I've got him in my avoid section just because I think he's a little bit overrated for what he's going to bring to your team, but he's definitely someone with a huge ceiling. Curtis, do you rate the Hollywood Brown call, or are you not backing it?
I don't know. He's a bit hit and miss for me, just because obviously Baltimore are going to be great. But I don't know. I'm a bit concerned that, well, he was injured part of last year, to be honest. So I don't know. Is it his second year this year, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that there's potential there for him to rack up points, but I don't think I would draft him. I think I would sit him on the waivers, bit like Watkins last year. Let him have a week or two in the waivers and see how that production is, and then maybe pick him up and chuck him on your bench.
Yeah, mate, he's not going to be on the waivers. But
sorry, his ADP is 28, so you'll be lucky.
Did I say he was the?
Who knows, boys? Who knows?
Did I say he was the first receiver off? I'm doing a Curtis college argument here, but he was the first receiver off the board in that draft, and that's the draft with Metcalf and all them. So he's clearly got the talent to
Metcalf, AJ Brown.
Yeah, Metcalf would have been first though. He was injured the whole of that year.
Yeah, but he wasn't.
All right. Yeah, so Marquise Brown, he is the definition of ceiling. So I don't really know why I don't have him in there. But for me, it's probably just one that I don't want to get sucked into taking on draft night. Curtis, who else have you got in the ceiling section?
Ridley, I have in my ceiling section, which I know he was in our top 15. So I know you guys probably won't be copying, but I feel like he's got lots of potential this year to really increase his fantasy scoring. Last year the last 2 years he obviously he's 30 in the league this year. He's been an upward trajectory. And I can only see it being the same this year. They've really bolstered their offense, Atlanta. They've really tried to make sure there's a bit more of a spread, which should hopefully open up the floor a bit more for Julio Jones and Ridley. And so I think we might see Ridley and Julio have a bit more production and receptions. But I also think that they might actually rely on Ridley a bit more this year, just because now he's got a bit more experience in him. They don't have to solely rely on Julio to, kind of carry that offense through to the end zone. But I feel like he really has a high ceiling to pull out plenty of TDs and plenty of fantasy points this year.
Yeah, I back that call as well. This is one, I'm just going to throw it out there, boys. What are we thinking? Odell Beckham. I've got him in the ceiling section, but he could just as easily be in the avoid section for me. He finished last year 32nd, but in 2018 he was 7th. He's a bit of a star of the league. However, the thing that puts me off with him is ADP is 12, and for me, I don't know if he's a wide receiver 2, let alone I don't know if he's worthy of the 12th man off the board. So for me, he's equally ceiling and avoid for those two reasons. But yeah, I could definitely see him bouncing back this year and being a top 20 wide receiver. But the thing that concerns me is they've got Jarvis Landry, Beckham, Njoku, Hunt, Chubb, and Hooper. I don't really know if you can, I think it will be shared around too much for any of them except Chubb to be absolute beasts. I think that there's going to be a very large spread there. So that's another thing that worries me. But Curtis, what do you think of Beckham? Would you have him in a void, or do you back him in?
I back him in highly. I think if I remember my wide receiver rankings, I think I actually might have had him 10th.
Yeah, I'm at 11th.
11th. So yeah. I actually I think there's a huge ceiling for him this year to where they rely on him as the genuine wide receiver 1 and Landry as a wide receiver 2. But in saying that, you're right. There's also a big avoid /flaw with him because he could be an absolute dud again, where he's taken as a wide receiver 1 or a high wide receiver 2, and he doesn't have the production purely because their offense is stacked. But in the end, I think it's all going to rely on Mayfield and whether Mayfield has a good season or not. Because if Mayfield has a good season, you'd expect Landry, and Joku and Odell to have good seasons as well. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Pilch, what do you think of Beckham?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously got the ceiling because of what he's done in the past, but he's in my avoid category just because he's just going way too high for me, for the reasons that you stated before. Too much competition.
All right, Pilch. Who else are you bringing to the table?
Yeah,
There's so many for this one.
We were touching on the Houston lads before before we got on. Will Fuller. I'm not necessarily high on Will Fuller. I just think he is pretty much the definition of a ceiling. I mean, we've seen him chuck up 57 points in one game, and now Hopkins is gone, so that's 150 targets ready to be spread around that offense. So, I mean, if he stays fit, he could cop a lot of those and go big, but he's also extremely risky. So I'm only taking him if I've got some solid wide receivers already in my team.
I think he's an awesome bench option though. For him, the main thing's health though. Like last year, he was legit going into every game questionable. His ADP is 34, so I don't think that's too high. I think it's just on the borderline of maybe leave it. But if you've got your 2 wide receivers and maybe a feasible flex option, then I think Fuller's not a bad 4th wide receiver to put into your side. I know, Curtis, you have different opinions, but I've also got Fuller in my ceiling. And another Houston boy I've got in my ceiling, I've got Brandon Cooks. Once again, I probably wouldn't go near him. He's got an ADP of 35, and he's just such an unknown quantity at this stage. Like probably another guy I wouldn't go for unless it was on my bench. But in 2018, he was the 18th best wide receiver. So that was a different team, but he was dealing with Cup and Woods for target. Well, not Cup that year really because he did his ACL, but he was dealing with those fellas for targets. And now he's moving to Houston once again. There's going to be targets spread around, but in terms of pedigree, he's probably the number 1 man out of the 4. Definitely above Stills, definitely above Cobb, and then Fuller and him are completely different types of wide receivers. So who knows? He could bounce back. He could turn into Hopkins for Watson. He could, just pump out 15, 16 a game. So I think he's a spicy little option, especially for the bench, but I don't have too much faith in him. But Curtis, why are you not too keen on the Houston fellas?
Yeah, I had both Fuller and Cook in my voice section. And Fuller, well, both of them I had Cook part of last year. And for both of them, they're just highly inconsistent. Like you'll have games where they'll whip their high 20s, but they're going to have some games where they're going to whip out 10. And frankly, when you're in fantasy, I feel like you're really looking for someone who can be consistent and just give you some consistency through week in, week out in terms of points. And yeah, they might be great for something that for like a week in, maybe off the waivers. If they're on the waivers, I doubt they will be. But you're right, they could be a good bench option. But yeah, I think both of you said it. That they're also someone you probably just wouldn't want to draft just because you just don't know what you're going to get, and you wouldn't want to be put in a situation where they're your wide receiver 2 because of an injury to someone else, and you're having someone who's whipping out 10 or 7 1 week because they're just inconsistent. But also because I think they've got a three-headed wide receiver core now.
Maybe even 4.
Yeah, so I mean the production's going to be really spread around between them, so it just adds the inconsistency that's going to plague their wide receivers, I think.
Yeah, there's rumors on the street. I've put my ear next to the wall, but apparently Kenny Stills might be getting traded before the season starts. So I read an article saying like 10 people most likely be traded, and he was in there. I think just given the situation, it'll probably see him as the wide receiver 4, and he's probably a little bit too good for that. Well, maybe not too good, but like no one wants to just rot in the wide receiver 4 position for any team. So that could also spice up Fuller and Cooks. But yeah, I 100% agree with you that point. If your starter gets injured, that's actually a very good point. I didn't really think of that, to be honest. Pilch, who else are you bringing to the ceiling table?
Well, AJ Brown was my main man, so
Yeah.
I'm all out of the ones I've gone into depth for. But I mean, just blokes. It's been a common theme, but blokes going into their second or third year, with that sort of upside where they could turn into a beast.
Any rookies that fancy you, Pilch? Or are you just avoiding all rookies?
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk is one because of the Deebo Samuel injury. He'll probably be their wide receiver 1. So he's definitely got a lot of upside. But I'm not sure if he might be available on the waivers. So you could wait and see with those sort of blokes. But he's probably the main one for upside for me.
Yeah, I was reading this morning. Apparently, they're both injured, but they're both expected to play week 1. But Deebo Samuel's missed the whole preseason camp, so even if he does play, it might be like only a couple snaps or something. Curtis, anyone else you want to bring up?
Well, obviously, AB, bit of a gag, but if he
his
does have,
ADP is like 60,
if
so
he
like
just
he's legit getting picked up.
mate, if he just manages to somehow get picked up by a team, which is just not going to happen, but if he does, he's probably the biggest ceiling out of everyone on the list, just because he's an out-and-out bowler, but he's a
Also the
psycho.
lowest
So
score.
he's a psycho as well. So like, you wouldn't want to pick him up, but you'd be keeping your eyes peeled just in case he gets picked up on waivers or just as a free agent or something. But I don't know. I don't even know if the NFL would let him back in. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't
a
even
good point,
touch
though.
him in the draft. So. And
That's a
then
good
just some random rookies that I feel like have got potential high ceiling, just like kind of DK Metcalf, where you would just have him on a bench or just pick him up on a waiver for a week just because they might have huge production one week. But I had Pittman for the Colts. I know you boys don't know maybe too much about him, but I back him hugely. I think he was great out of USC, and I feel like he's going to be great in the NFL as well. Ayuk was another one I had, who you mentioned, Pilch, and then I also had Justin Jefferson at the Vikings. I feel like he kind of fills that void that Diggs left, and he actually might take some of the kind of production that Diggs had and maybe substitute that nicely. So I feel like he could be another one with a huge ceiling.
Yeah, I can't lie. I think every rookie's in my void, to be honest. Just
Oh,
thinking
you wouldn't
about
draft any, yeah. Sorry.
thinking about the top guys, I think they all have flawed situations at the moment. Like you got Ruggs, he's playing with not a great. Well, Ruggs' specialty is that he's rapid, so he's going to be a downfield target. Well, his QB only throws at 3 yards, so there's a genuine issue there. Jerry Jeudy, I don't mind Jerry Jeudy's situation, but I just don't think Drew Lock's gonna be like pumping out enough yards for Jeudy as a wide receiver too to be benefiting from it. Who else are we dealing with? Jefferson, I've heard, well, we talked about this last podcast, but apparently he's actually the wide receiver 3 behind like their 7th round pick. So that's someone else who I'm a bit worried about. Yeah, I guess Pittman's probably the main guy I'd keep an eye on, but most of the others I'm not too keen on. CD Lamb, yeah, he might score a few points, but at the end of the day, he's behind 2 pretty top tier wide receivers in Gallup and Cooper. So I wouldn't be too keen on him either. Jalen Ayuk as well. I don't know. Oh, Jalen Reagor.
I'm pretty high on him. There. I'm high on him. He could be their wide receiver 1 because you got Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey. We don't really know what they're going to bring. I mean, they're fossils at this point. They haven't really been good, like elite for a while now. So he could take the mantle.
I was just thinking a couple ones just now. What about who's the Seahawks bloke who they picked up from New England, who was an absolute bowler? Like he's like physical attribute. I can't remember his name, but he could have a huge ceiling.
Is his name.
And Watkins, I feel like could have a huge ceiling actually. Just last year when I was just thinking he whipped up like 50 something points round one, and he had another game where it was high 40s. So
So
he's
then,
Could
got
be
he's
like
got huge ceiling.
a flex option maybe.
Yeah.
When they play a bad team.
I think Watkins is their wide receiver 3 now. But I mean,
Really?
McCole Hardman will be
Oh
the.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
true.
boys. I've got a few names to rattle off here for the ceiling. So first up, Deebo Samuel. I know he's missed training camp, might miss week 1, but second year player. Second half of last year, he was 16th. So I like him, and he's being picked up at position 36. So I think there's some value in that pick. Stephon Diggs, I don't know. He could be ceiling, he could be a void. He's going to a new situation. He's being picked up at ADP 26, so I don't know if that's value there. But he's been a top 10 wide receiver in the past. He was 10th in 2018, despite Thielen balling out that year. So yeah, I'm pretty, wary of Diggs, but I think he could also be pretty awesome for them. He could be their downfield target. They might look to score a lot more this year. Josh Allen might rush a few less TDs and might try and throw a few more. Emmanuel Sanders, someone else. He's going to New Orleans. He's probably just, I don't know. He's been a top 20 wide receiver in the past. He's been picked up at ADP 45, so he could just be some bench fodder there with a bit of upside. T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton's a tough one. Like a lot of the guys we're mentioning here, he's got a very big injury past, but apparently he's looking all right this preseason. Once again, though, we don't know if he'll play much, but he came 13th in 2018. When he played last year, he wasn't bad. He was 34th on average, but his ADP is 27, so I'd probably steer clear of that one. And then a few pods here. Deshaun Jackson. As we said, he is a fossil, but he averages 17.4 yards per reception for his career, which only 5 people averaged more than that per reception in last season, and he's done it over like a 12-year career. His 40-yard time is 4.35, so he's a rapid downfield threat. He averages 1 touchdown every 10 receptions, so he's basically going to be averaging 1 every 2. Well, you would say that he has been doing that over his career, and he's had 3 1,000+ yard seasons in his last 7. So we didn't see much of him last year. He only played 3 games, but I think he's definitely someone to watch out for if he stays fit. He could come out of nowhere, and his ADP is 59. So for me, he's a great bench option. AJ Green, another guy, ADP is 31, but he's been a top 10 wide receiver in the past. He's a legendary guy. So he could be one to watch. I don't know if he's going to start round 1 though, because I think he's been battling injury as always. And then 3 absolute pods, but Josh Reynolds, Los Angeles Rams, he's been bumped up from the practice squad basically to take Brandon Cook's spot as the wide receiver 3. Yeah, he could be someone if the Rams are pumping out 2018 numbers. McCole Hardman, I think, has a high ceiling, pretty low floor, but as you said, he's looking to be their wide receiver number 2. He's absolutely rapid. Kansas are going to score a lot of points, so there could be some value in that. And then Brashard Perryman. He's ADP 62. He looks like he's going to be the New York Jets wide receiver 2. And last year he was playing at Tampa, so a wide receiver friendly offense. But in the second half of last season, he actually averaged 14.7, putting him 21st. So he shows that he has some high scoring potential. And if he's ADP 62, I don't know why you wouldn't just put a cheeky bench option on him. So yeah, that's it for my ceiling. Sorry for naming half the NFL there, but now moving into the avoid section. Pilch, who are you not looking at picking up this season?
Well, I mentioned Beckham before, but AJ Green, just not having a bar of him. Injuries, fossil, not even their wide receiver 1 if he is on the field. Tyler Boyd is clearly
that's debatable.
Alpha receiver. Tyler Boyd's gone over 1,000 yards the last 2 seasons, and he's in the slot. He's definitely the alpha. So yeah, AJ Green's not even in my top 40. So see you later, mate.
Fair enough. Or yeah, can't really argue with it. I think there is a little bit of bias there since we haven't seen him play because we've only been following the NFL for a few seasons. But no, fair enough. I also do think he'll be getting drafted a little bit too early. Given his
way too
injury,
early. Yeah.
History probably wouldn't be getting him to like 50th. But Curtis, anyone you're just avoiding this season?
CD Lamb, definitely not going near him. I don't know. I just don't feel like he's going to get the production. He's obviously a great option there, but for someone you want on your bench, as I was saying before, I feel like you want someone who's got a bit consistency just in case someone pops out. So yeah, I wouldn't be touching CD Lamb. Just obviously because he's a rookie as well, so he's unknown in terms of his potential at the NFL level. So yeah, wouldn't be touching him.
Yeah, fair enough. Speaking of Dallas, I had Michael Gallup in this section, but then I saw his ADP is 30, so that's kind of made me rethink it because I think if you're taking him at 30, I think that's a good pick. Last year he finished the season in 17th, but I don't think he's a starting wide receiver. But yeah, like I can't really put him in the avoid if he's ADP 30. But my main ones here are just the New York Giants wide receivers. I wouldn't touch any of them. I don't think all three of them got on the park for more than like one match last season. Shepard had his concussion injuries. Tate was suspended for the first half of the season. They ended up all doing pretty decently. Shepard was 24th, Tate 28th, Slayton 39th. But as I said, they were often the wide receiver one because the other bloke wasn't there. Where this season, if they're all there, one of them's going to be the wide receiver 3 and one will be the wide receiver 2. And Saquon's back. Evan Ingram might be back. So I would just be seriously wary of these guys. Their ADPs are once again quite low. So maybe if they're there as a bench option, you're taking them because their ADPs respectively are Slayton's 43, Tate's 53, and Shepard's 44. So there could be some bench value there because we do expect the Giants to score a lot of points this season. But yeah, in terms of taking them as a starter or anything, I would probably steer clear because there's a lot of uncertainty there. Pilch, have you got another one?
Yeah, Devontae Parker of the Dolphins. This will probably be an unpopular one, but start of last season, Preston Williams was their alpha receiver. Parker was shit. He was a myth. Preston Williams did his knee. Then Parker became a god. Preston Williams is back fit and firing, so I'm not even sure if Parker's going to be their alpha receiver. And he's playing for the Dolphins as well. So, and they've got Mike Gesicki too, who does like to take up a few targets here and there. So I just think he's going way too high. I think he's going in like the early 20s.
24th.
Yeah, it's just a bit,
I
yuck
agree
for
with
me
that
there.
one. Yeah, that's one I only clocked like a couple hours ago. But yeah, I was looking at him and Preston Williams and I was like, nah, the Parkers, stay away from that. Curtis, who else are you avoiding?
Pretty much anyone from Chicago. Let's be honest. So I'll be avoiding Cohen. Will not be touching him. Touched him last year when I picked him up in my draft and regretted that. Cohen, mate. He's like nah. He's actually a wide receiver though. He came in as a wide receiver. I'm pretty sure on the draft boards last year. Don't know if he is this year, but last year he was a wide receiver when I picked him up, and he did dog shit. So yeah, will not be touching him.
Oh yeah, he's been changed to a running back, but all he does is catch.
Yeah, he's a running back, but he never runs. So yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, Taylor Gabriel, Ted Ginn, don't touch them. Allen Robinson, touch him everywhere, but yeah,
I don't mind
Anthony
Miller. He's going pretty low, so and he's their wide receiver too.
It's such a risk. I don't know. I don't even know if there's much upside in it either because they're not going to be scoring any points or anything. A couple other guys I've got here. So I had Hollywood Brown, but I completely see why he's got a high ceiling. And then next to my final two, I've actually got Cortland Sutton here. He's going quite high. He's going 19th. He did pretty well once Emmanuel Sanders left. But ultimately, he only averaged 27th. He was 33rd in the second half of last year, and he's going 19th. So I'm not really sure where that adds up. Jerry Jeudy's coming in. He won the wide receiver awards coming out of college despite not being picked up number 1. so arguably could become the most talented wide receiver there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just steering clear. Drew Lock. I was looking at Sutton's stats when Drew Lock was quarterback, and they completely plummeted. I don't think he scored more than like 16 points or something with him. I don't know. I think I was looking at Parker at the same situation, so I was going to be confused. But yeah, no, I would steer clear of Sutton. I don't know why he's 19th, to be honest. And then another guy I've got is John Brown. He's not going very high, so he's 40th. So probably worth picking up at 40, to be honest. But just with Diggs coming in, the whole situation's a bit unknown. He was 23rd last season, so yeah, I probably wouldn't be picking him up as a starter or a flex anytime soon. I don't think he has too much upside there. Have you boys got any others?
Just the Pittsburgh boys generally. Just wouldn't be touching them at all. Including Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, I rate that.
They're all just, yeah, I don't know whether I just want to see whether Roethlisberger is actually going to lead to an improvement from them, or whether they've generally just got no wideouts for Roethlisberger. So yeah, I wouldn't be touching them.
Yeah, and I definitely rate that. And they've picked up Eric Ebron as their second tight end. So there's probably going to be less footy going out wide, more footy going up the guts. To the big fellas, Pilch, got any more?
Mike Williams from the Chargers. I think he's a decent player, but he just cops no volume, and their offense is going to be pretty yuck. And obviously, Keenan Allen gets all the targets there, so I think he'll be producing some twos.
Yeah,
and he's going like decently. He's going like 40 odd.
Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, people froth Mike Williams. Like, I guess because in terms of actual NFL, he's probably pretty good. We just don't care. I remember he took an absolute beast catch last year.
Yeah, all he does is
like
big play.
And then just like smacked his back on the floor like 2 meters in the air. But yeah, we've basically gone through everyone. I think Marvin Jones is the only bloke left who we had in our top 25, so we haven't talked about, but I still don't want to talk about him. Yeah, so we've touched on the whole NFL here, so we've done a pretty good job, I reckon. Good work, fellas. Any parting words to the fellas?
Hope there's more NFL fantasy podcasts coming up because I enjoy them.
Yeah, mate. Absolutely.
Well, it just started raining. What the hell? The plan is we're gonna record the draft live. That's what I'm hoping anyway. We'll see how it works though. Want to do that definitely. And then what I'm planning to do is, I don't know how frequent it'll be, but I want to do like NFL fantasy recap. Also NFL, but it probably more focused in fantasy. Talk about our league. Talk about the people who are doing well. So maybe every fortnight we'll do that or something like that. So there's definitely going to be a lot more NFL content now that the season's starting, but also fantasy content. We'll keep this going throughout the season. I don't know when the draft episode is coming out, but in case it comes out on Saturday, the first game will have already happened. So can we get a prediction from you boys? Chiefs, Texans. Who are we backing in, Kurt?
Chiefs.
And by how many? How deep's the sausage going?
I feel like it could be pretty deep. Like
3 feet,
we're talking
2 feet. Out the mouth?
20 points. 30 points potential. I feel like it could be an absolute battering.
Yeah, it is first game of the season though, so they might not be as sexy as normal. But Pilch?
Yeah, I think the Texans are going to be dog shit this year. Not even close to making the playoffs, so could get ugly. Texans fans, look away now. Don't even watch the game, because you might not even be a Texans fan if you watch that shit.
I don't back that call at all, to be honest. They've lost like one player, so yeah, and they've still got the best quarterback in the world,
and they have a shocking O-line.
Yeah, well, they've got Larry Tunsil.
Apparently, I was reading about the O-line, and apparently the O-line is not that bad. It's that Deshaun loves to sit in the pocket and then he loves to scramble straight out of the pocket. So it just adds up to sacks when it shouldn't really be sacks.
And he holds on to it ages because he
Yeah.
backs himself to avoid the tackles.
That's what I read.
But nah,
So
I definitely think Chiefs will be going in heavy favourites, probably paying like $1.20 with the bookies. I'd say I don't want to go too many because it's first game of the season, so they will probably be rusty themselves. There's been no preseason games, so I'll say Chiefs by 17. Don't even know if that margin is possible, but I'll back it in. All right, thanks for joining me, boys. I can't lie, I thought this episode was going to be 3 hours at one point, but we did well to get it to a pretty nice time. So yeah, this has been a complete wrap of every wide receiver to have ever breathed on earth. Tune in if you've enjoyed the NFL fantasy content. You can go watch our past episodes. We've talked about pretty much every position there is. And yeah, good luck for the NFL fantasy season if you're listening. And we'll see you boys soon.